God, the four, the
freedom of choice. Choice originally, when Balak sent for him, he refused to go, and he said, then I have to ask God, and God said, well, you can go, but you're only going to be limited to do this and that, and it was also the same with Pharaoh. Pharaoh didn't want to let the Jews go. What did Hashem do? He hardened the heart to make it more difficult for him to make the Jews go.
Yes. Freedom, Kreskus talks about. You're free, but your freedom, once again, is relational. And the sixth point that Kreskus wants you to understand in philosophical thinking, which he says these guys aren't necessarily talking about, is that all philosophical speculation in Judaism must discuss the fact that the world has a purpose. It doesn't even matter if you're not sure what that purpose is, so long as you're discussing the fact that it has a purpose. As it happens, Kreskus is happy to tell you what that purpose is. And here's the big shift. Kreskus says, I've had enough of hearing about knowledge of God. I want to talk about love of God. God is love. God is not knowledge. The Rambam had said that God is Hayodea, V'Hayidua, V'Hamada, the knower, the known, and the knowledge. God's not knowledge. God, says Kreskus, is love. Very interesting shift within Jewish thought. The whole of the universe and humanity is created in order to develop a relationship with the divine that is based on love. That God expresses love, and that leads to the bliss of the soul in its loving contemplation of God. This might sound like, nice word, but it's a huge shift. It's an anti-Aristotelian, anti-intellectual shift that happens towards the end of the 14th century. However, Kreskus has a big student. You know that there are several guys that made their careers at the famous disputation of Tortosa. Everybody familiar with the disputation of Tortosa?
No.
Okay. In 1414 in Spain, there were some famous disputations throughout the Middle Ages. Yep. The Ramban in Barcelona in 1263. There was Nicolas Donin in France in the 1200s. But one of the most famous and bizarre disputations took place in Tortosa in 1414 because every single rabbi in Spain was summoned to be at Tortosa in a disputation that lasted for 2 years. It devastated communities right across Spain, and approximately half of the rabbis cracked. You've got to realize what happened in Spain in the middle of the 1400s.
This was under Christian or Muslim? Christian.
What do you reckon? Some young rabbis made their careers at Tortosa because they came to the fore. And one of them was Kreskus's big student, Yosef Albo. Now Albo, after Tortosa, got so fed up with arguing with these priests that he sat about what Judaism actually is, that he sat down and wrote a book called Sefer HaIkarim, the Book of Main Principles. Kreskus tells you, the Rambam's 13 Principles of Faith, who needs it? Kreskus's 6 guidelines for philosophical speculation, who needs it? I'll tell you what's going on. You need to believe 3 things in Judaism. 3 things, and you're okay. The existence of God, revelation, and reward and punishment. You have those 3, you're through, as far as I'm concerned. That, of course,
is Albo.
Albo.
Isn't this reward and punishment somewhat of a Christian thing?
What do you
If it's a Christian thing, then it's a Christian thing because it's a Jewish thing. There is the fact that there is schar v'onish in the world is fairly clear in the Torah and in other Jewish texts spanning across the entire spectrum of Jewish literature.
But in the afterlife or in the community?
Either. We're not even into afterlife yet. Just that there is reward and punishment. Whether you want to believe it's karma, whether you want to believe that there's a great big afterlife with 70 virgins, whatever you want to believe, right?
Just getting good.
Whatever. You need to believe in the concept. Now, the fifth.
Not mentioned in
We're aware of that. We're aware of that.
Chulent says that my chilek should be like their chilek after they die.
If it is, it's by remnants. Anyway, the point is that, as you so rightly point out, that leaves open the fact that for Albor, almost every religious person on the planet of whatever persuasion is going to basically be within his creed. He therefore argues that from these three basic points, you have to build up a picture that is fully consistent. First of all, you have the three basic points, which is the trunk, and then you build up branches from that. He has 8 secondary branches. Here's a really important point. His 8 secondary branches read something like the incorporeal, which in his book, Sefer Ikarim, he works out philosophically from the basic principles. You've got to believe in the incorporeality of God, the unity of God, the eternality of God, the perfection of God, that God takes an interest in the world, that the primary mode of revelation is Moshe and the prophets. So far, Islam and Christianity are still on Albor's bus. But then in number 7, he comes and he tells you, bang, if that Torah is to be revoked, it can only be revoked in the same manner in which it was given. That is, you need the whole people at some place, and God comes and says, I've decided to change it. If that doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. And the 8th is the idea of, Tchiat HaMetim, resurrection of the dead. The concept of Mashiach, says Albor. If I've discussed trunks and branches, the concept of Mashiach is not even a twig. I am sick and tired of these priests, just as I'm sick and tired of being handed messianic pamphlets in cafes in Tel Aviv. I am sick and tired of these priests, and not by Christians, of these priests, says Albor, telling me I couldn't care less whether Mashiach has come or Mashiach hasn't come. Mashiach is not an Ikar of Judaism. We are not short as a people of original thought. I mean, the Torah, the Midrash, everything. But philosophy within Judaism tends to be reactive. I think that the next big shift comes pretty much in the 18th century. In the 18th century, obviously, we are now standing on the other side of what's the Hallowed, capital, the Enlightenment. I mean, by the end of the 17th century, Newton's Principia Mathematica is already out in the bookshops. Newton, obviously, once again, excellent point. But I'm not going to regard, I certainly wouldn't skip over the publishing of the Zohar, right? Or the revelation of the Zohar, which happens in 1290, its first publishing in 1568 in Mantua. I'm not going to skip over that, but I am going to say that I'm not going to put that in the philosophical tradition, the Kabbalistic tradition, which deals with many problems that philosophy can't touch.
It's on the same level as like metaphysics and Aristotle.
Sorry?
You wouldn't consider like metaphysics and Aristotle a different version?
I'm not sure I understand the
You would
question.
just consider different, like just like Aristotle, like his metaphysics.
No, it's different. It's different, and the reason it's different is because the Zohar relies on revelation. The Zohar is, at the end of the day, a commentary on Torah, and it relies on revelation, and it's not systematic. We're talking about systematic, reactive, rational thought. The big turning point really is the Enlightenment.